Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real quick. You're sitting there thinking, he ain't calling me back. He didn't text me today. What changed? But I'm going to tell you something most women don't realize. He's not ignoring you. He's starting to fall for you. When a man truly starts feeling something deep, he often pulls back. Not because he's disinterested, but because he's scared of how real it's getting. Now, that may sound crazy to some of y'all, but let me break it down the way a man understands it. See, men aren't always taught how to sit in their feelings, how to hold emotion and not run from it. We're taught to chase, conquer, provide, protect. But feeling something deeply, that's not part of most men's training. So when a man starts to genuinely care about a woman, when it's no longer about attraction or surface level attention, when he starts feeling something serious, he goes quiet. He starts to pull back, not because you did anything wrong, but because for the first time, he's not in control of the emotions he's feeling. And that lack of control is scary. You see, falling in love is not just an emotional experience. It's psychological, it's spiritual, it's vulnerable. And for a man who's been used to being strong, guarded, even a little emotionally distant, that fall feels like he's slipping, like he's losing footing. That's why some of the best men, the ones who actually do care, act a little strange when the connection gets real. He might not text as quick. He might not open up right away. And you're left wondering, did I say something? Did I do too much? But no, baby, you did everything right. He's just falling. And that fall is shaking something loose inside of him that he's not used to dealing with. Now, here's the secret no one tells you. Men don't pull back when they're done. They pull back when they're overwhelmed. Think about it. When it's casual, when it's surface level, he's relaxed, he's fun, he's calling, he's showing up. But the moment he feels his heart making moves, he panics. It's like when you walk in a tightrope and suddenly realize how high up you are. You freeze. That's what it feels like when a man starts to care. He realizes he's high up now. If he slips, it might hurt. If he falls, he could lose control. And that realization sends him into silence. It's not coldness. It's not rejection. It's fear. So many women confuse that fear for lack of interest. They think if he loved me, he'd be consistent. And yes, a mature man learns to work through that silence, learns to communicate, learns to stay present even while processing. But not every man is there yet, especially not when those emotions hit him unexpectedly. A man can be strong, confident, successful, and still not know how to say, I'm scared of how much I'm starting to feel for you. So instead of saying it, he just backs up, slows down, retreats into himself to make sense of it all. Let me tell you, a man falling for you is not always loud about it. Sometimes he falls quietly. He starts observing more, thinking more, testing the waters of vulnerability. He's watching to see if you'll still be there when he's not on. He's watching to see if you're real, if you're safe, if he can let his guard down without you using his heart as a weapon. That's deep, y'all, because for most men, love isn't about just giving their time or attention. It's about surrendering their armor, and that surrender takes time. So when he pulls back, it's not always the end. It might just be the beginning of something real, something worth waiting for, something that's got him scared in a good way. Scared because this time it matters. Men process emotions differently. Silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's reflection. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of how men love. See, when a man starts catching feelings, really catching feelings, not just enjoying your company, not just being attracted to your looks, but genuinely feeling something deep in his heart, he doesn't always know how to express it. Society doesn't raise most men to be emotionally fluent. We're taught to handle business, to be strong, to take care of things. But when it comes to emotions, we're trained to suppress, to tough it out, to man up. So what happens when something touches a man's heart for real? He doesn't always talk about it. He goes quiet. Not because he wants to push you away, but because he's trying to understand what's happening inside of him. That silence that drives you crazy, that space you interpret as distance, it's actually him going inward. He's not ghosting you, baby. He's reflecting. He's replaying moments with you. He's remembering how you laughed at his joke, how you held his hand a little tighter that night, how you looked at him like you actually saw the man he tries to hide from the world. And now, for the first time in a long time, maybe even the first time ever, he's asking himself, what is this feeling? And because he's not used to answering that question, he stays silent. Let me be real with you. When a woman goes quiet, it's often because she's hurting, disappointed, or detaching. But when a man goes quiet, especially a man who's never been emotionally open, it's usually because he's thinking, deep thinking. He doesn't want to say the wrong thing. He doesn't want to open up too fast and get hurt. He doesn't want to look weak. That silence isn't meant to hurt you. It's him trying to protect himself from feelings he didn't see coming. That's not rejection. That's fear mixed with curiosity. It's resistance mixed with hope. Now, don't get me wrong. Some men do disappear when they're not interested. That's true. But the man we're talking about here, he's different. He doesn't ghost you. He stays in your orbit, maybe not as loud as before, but he's still present, still watching, still reading your texts, still checking in subtly. That's not a man who's done. That's a man who's caught between the safety of solitude and the risk of real connection. And here's something else you got to understand. Silence can be a man's way of communicating what he doesn't know how to say. I'm feeling things I've never felt. I don't want to lose her, but I'm scared to be vulnerable. If I open up, will she still respect me? These thoughts run through his mind, but instead of speaking them, he just goes quiet. That quiet doesn't mean he's gone. It means he's in process. He's sorting through things you may never hear about, but things that deeply involve you, things that involve the possibility of loving you the right way, not the easy way. So while you're sitting there wondering, why hasn't he called? He's sitting somewhere thinking, how do I say this without messing it up? He may not be good with words, but he's trying to be careful with your heart. That silence, it's not absence, it's emotional hesitation. It's him checking his steps before he makes the move that changes everything. And if you've ever known a man who's been hurt before, you know hesitation doesn't mean no. It means he cares enough to want to do it right. A man falling in love may act distant to protect his heart or test the safety of giving it to you. That may sound unfair, even frustrating, but it's the truth. When a man starts catching feelings that go beyond the surface, when it's not just about how you look or how you make him laugh, but something deeper, something that stirs in his chest and makes him see a future, he doesn't just leap forward. He pauses, he watches, he may even pull back, not because he don't want you, but because he's scared that this time it's different. And when it's different, when it feels like it matters, Men get protective, not just of you, but of their own heart too. You see, most men don't just hand over their emotions. It's not that easy for us. We were taught to be strong, to lead, to never look weak. And falling in love, that can make a man feel vulnerable in ways he's never allowed himself to be. So instead of rushing in and declaring his feelings like in the movies, he might pull back. He might start acting distant, almost like he's unsure. But what he's really doing is testing the emotional temperature of the connection. Can he trust it? Can he trust you? Can he trust himself? Sometimes a man will intentionally slow things down when he starts feeling something real. He's watching how you respond, not just when he's close, but especially when he puts space between you. If you get angry, if you chase, if you start questioning your worth, he sees that as a sign. But if you remain calm, confident, centered, not chasing, not punishing, he sees that too. And to a man who's trying to protect his heart, your reaction says a lot more than your words ever could. Now, this distance can be confusing, no doubt about it. You might think, if he likes me, why is he backing up? But in reality, it's his way of measuring whether this love will be safe for him. Will you hold him with grace when he's not at his strongest? Will you make space for his silence without trying to control him? Will you respect the way he needs to process love, even if it looks different from how you express yours? Men test love in silence. They don't always do it on purpose, but they do it. It's a survival tactic. A way of asking without asking, is it safe for me here? That test isn't about playing games. It's about self-preservation. A man who has been hurt before, who has been misunderstood or taken for granted, will guard his heart like it's all he has left. So if he starts pulling back just as things were getting good, it's probably because it got too good and that scared him. He's not ignoring you, he's evaluating you. Not in a judgmental way, but in a deeply emotional way. He's asking himself, can I trust her with the version of me I don't show anyone else? Because once a man gives his heart, once he lets you in, that's it. He doesn't give love in pieces. He gives it all. But to get to that point, he needs to know, really know, that it won't be thrown back in his face. That you're not just there for the attention or the highlight reel, but for the deep, real parts of him that take time to come out. So that distance, that silence, that little pause in his rhythm, don't panic. Don't assume the worst. Don't rush in trying to fix what isn't broken. He's not pushing you away because he's losing interest. He's stepping back because he just might be falling, and he needs to be sure that where he's falling is safe. His hesitation isn't confusion about you, it's uncertainty about himself. That's a distinction a lot of people miss, especially when they start reading too deep into someone else's behavior. When a man begins to develop serious feelings for a woman, it can shake his whole foundation. Suddenly, he's no longer in control of how he feels. And for a man who's built his life around being in control, that can feel terrifying. It's not that he doubts your worth. It's not that he questions your value. He sees who you are. He sees what you bring. And deep down, he knows you're special. Maybe even the one. But the pause, the distance, that moment of emotional silence, that's all about him wrestling with his own internal questions. Not about whether you are good enough, but whether he is ready. See, when a man is truly falling in love, he's not just thinking about the moment. He's thinking long term. He's thinking about what it means to show up consistently, to be emotionally available, to let someone into the space he spent years protecting. And when he starts asking himself, Can I be the man she deserves? That's when you'll notice the shift. That's when he starts acting different. That's when the calls slow down a bit. That's when the vulnerability feels like a risk instead of a gift. And that doesn't mean he's walking away. It just means he's trying to measure himself against a future he might not feel ready to carry. A lot of men are taught from a young age to tie their worth to their ability to lead, to provide, to perform. So when emotions get involved, and especially love, they feel this intense pressure to get everything right. And if they're not sure they can, they hesitate, not because they're players, not because they're confused, but because they care too much to risk breaking something that matters. That pause, that's respect. That hesitation, that's a man checking in with himself to make sure he's not rushing and only to crash later. Women often interpret that silence as a red flag, and I get it. It feels like withdrawal. It feels like coldness. But let me tell you something from a man's heart. When he starts falling for real, he starts questioning himself, not you. Can I protect her heart the way I should? Can I be strong enough to stay when things get rough? Do I have what it takes to love her fully? Those questions are loud inside him. And until he finds those answers, he might take a step back. He might go quiet, not because he's giving up on you, but because he's figuring out if he's ready to give everything to you. This is the kind of hesitation that doesn't come from doubt. It comes from depth. It's not about playing games or creating space for attention. It's about a man being honest with himself before he makes promises he can't keep. The truth is, good men, real men, don't want to enter a relationship half prepared. They don't want to show up broken, unsure, or unstable. They want to be solid, they want to be ready, and they want to come in with the intention to build, not break. So when they feel love starting to grow, they stop and look at themselves in the mirror, sometimes for the first time in a long time. He's not pulling away because you scared him. He's stepping back because he scared himself. And that moment right there is when he decides whether to rise into the man he wants to be for you or let fear keep him standing still. So remember, when you see that hesitation, don't take it personal. He's not unsure about you. He's just making sure that when he steps forward, he can give you the love you truly deserve. Real men don't always say it first. They show it in shifts of behavior, vulnerability, and consistency. The truth is, most men don't walk around making grand declarations of love. They're not going to pour their heart out in long text messages or confess everything they feel over a candlelit dinner like you see in romantic movies. That's not because they don't care. It's because love for many men is a language of action, not word. When a real man is falling for you, you won't always hear it, but you'll start to feel it. His behavior begins to shift, subtly at first. The way he looks at you changes. He pays attention to the little things. He remembers the things that matter to you. He starts showing up, not just physically, but emotionally too. You might not notice it right away, but when a man is falling for you, his world slowly starts to include you, not just in his free time or when it's convenient, but in his thoughts, his routines, his plans. He might not be able to say, I'm falling in love with you, but he'll start doing things that show it, like making time for you when he's busy, or asking about your day in a way that shows he truly cares. And more than that, he starts letting you into parts of himself he doesn't reveal to just anyone. His fears, his dreams, his doubts, That's when you know it's real. Vulnerability doesn't come easy to most men. We're taught from a young age to be tough, to hide our emotions, to never look weak. So when a man lets his guard down, when he shares something that makes him feel exposed, that's his version of "I love you." It might not sound like the fairy tale line you were waiting for, but that kind of emotional exposure is his truth. And it matters, because when a man chooses to be vulnerable, that means he's trusting you with a side of him the world never gets to see. And trust me, he doesn't take that lightly. Another way a real man shows he's fallen is through consistency. He doesn't just pop in and out of your life when he feels like it. He doesn't disappear when things get tough or when the excitement wears off. He stays. He keeps showing up, even if he's tired, even if he's busy, even if he doesn't always have the words. He's there. That kind of steady presence, that reliability, that's love in its strongest form. Because anyone can show affection in the honeymoon phase. But it takes a real man to stay consistent when things get real. And here's something else most people overlook. A real man falling for you doesn't need to be perfect. He might still be figuring things out. He might still struggle with communication or expressing how he feels. But if he's trying, if he's showing effort, if he's working on being better, that's your sign. That effort is love in motion. He may not always get it right, but he's committed to getting closer, to learning, to understanding you, to becoming the man you deserve, even if it takes time. So when you wonder how he feels, don't just listen to his words, watch his actions. Is he consistent? Is he vulnerable? Is he showing up for you when it matters? That's how a real man says, "I'm falling for you." Not through poetry or perfect lines, but through quiet commitment, through those everyday actions that say, "You matter to me." Because at the end of the day, love isn't just spoken, it's lived. And when a real man is falling for you, he shows it with his presence, his protection, and his patience every single day. What feels like silence might actually be the storm before his emotional breakthrough. A lot of people misunderstand the quiet moments, especially when it comes from a man who's usually open, fun, or communicative. Suddenly he withdraws. He becomes distant. He's not texting as much. He's not as available. And right away, your mind jumps to the worst case scenario. Is he losing interest? Did I do something wrong? Is he gone for good? But that silence isn't always about detachment. In fact, sometimes it's the exact opposite. Sometimes it means something deeper is happening inside him, something unfamiliar, something powerful. That silence could be the sound of him confronting feelings he's never had to face. It's not about pushing you away. It's about trying to figure out how to pull you in without losing himself. See, when a man starts falling in love, truly falling, there's a war that breaks out inside of him. One side wants to open up, to embrace the joy, to step into the light of something real. The other side wants to retreat, to protect what's been guarded for so long, to stay safe behind emotional walls. That internal conflict doesn't always look loud or dramatic. More often, it looks like silence. It looks like emotional pause. It looks like stillness. But inside, there's a storm brewing. A battle between fear and hope, past and future, doubt and desire. And sometimes that emotional turbulence needs time. Time to settle, time to process, time to make peace with what love is asking of him. Men aren't always taught how to handle emotional breakthroughs. We're trained to endure, to fix, to move on. But falling in love doesn't get fixed. It has to be felt. And that's hard for someone who has spent years pushing feelings down just to survive. That's why when those feelings finally break through, when love starts to rise up in him and ask him to change, to grow, to trust, it can feel overwhelming. So he goes silent, not to escape, but to understand, to navigate what it means to care so deeply that it scares him. That silence is often the space before his next move, a bigger move. It's like the moment right before the rain starts. You can feel the pressure in the air, but nothing's falling yet. That's him. He's under emotional pressure. He knows something big is coming, something he needs to say, something he needs to do, but he's not quite ready. So he waits. He processes. And to the outside world, it looks like he's pulling away. But inside, he's preparing for the most vulnerable leap of all. Being real about how he feels. You might not see it happening, but the shift is coming. Because a man who goes quiet like that doesn't do it for nothing. That kind of silence is a sacred space. It's the place where truth begins to rise. It's where a man faces his own reflection and decides what kind of partner he wants to be. It's in that stillness that he realizes this isn't just another connection. This is something he could lose if he doesn't rise to meet it with honesty and courage. And when he breaks that silence, when he finally speaks or shows up with changed energy, that's his breakthrough. That's him stepping into love with intention. That's him saying, I'm ready, even if he doesn't say it perfectly. The storm passes, and what's left is clarity, not just about you, but about himself. That's the power of that silence. That's why it matters. That's why sometimes the quiet moments mean more than all the noise, because that's when a man stops pretending, stops running, and starts becoming the kind of man who can love out loud.